Hello, English learners, and welcome back to the best podcast that helps you speak English clearly, confidently, and naturally. Daily conversations and real travel stories are among the most powerful tools to learn English fluently and confidently. In today's episode, we're diving into something inspiring: how listening to real travel stories can boost your English speaking practice.
Yes, and before we begin, exciting news. We've just launched a private conversation group for motivated learners who want to speak English every day. If you're ready to join live speaking sessions, just comment "I'm ready" below this episode and we'll add you to the list.
So, Catherine, in your experience as someone who's passionate about language and culture, why do you believe travel stories are such a powerful tool for learning English?
Honestly, James, travel stories are more than just entertainment. They're emotional, immersive learning experiences. When you hear someone describe how they got lost in a new country or how they connected with a stranger in another language, you're not just learning new words. You're absorbing the language through feeling, context, and personal meaning. You remember it. It stays with you. That's so much more effective than just reading grammar rules in a textbook.
That's so true. I've noticed that too when I listen to someone's story, especially if it's filled with emotion or humor. Um, I automatically start visualizing the scenes in my head, and that mental picture makes the vocabulary stick.
Exactly. And there's something else. When you listen to these stories in English, you're training your brain to process the language naturally, without constantly translating in your head. Your mind starts working in English. That's how fluency develops, through natural exposure and emotional engagement.
And it feels less like studying and more like experiencing something real. That's probably why people who travel often pick up the language faster. They're surrounded by context, culture, and conversation.
Absolutely. It's like learning by living. That's what makes it so powerful.
Let's go back to your story. You chose Europe and specifically France for your trip. Why? What pulled you in that direction?
It started as a dream, really. Since I was a teenager, I've always been fascinated by Europe. The diversity of languages, the centuries of history, the art, the architecture, the philosophy. There's so much richness packed into that continent. But France had a special place in my heart. It's romantic, yes, but also intellectually deep. I saw it as a place where I could grow on multiple levels: emotionally, culturally, and linguistically.
So it wasn't just about sightseeing.
Not at all. I wasn't going just to take pictures of the Eiffel Tower. I went because I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to improve my French, yes, but also use English in international settings. I wanted to immerse myself in something completely unfamiliar and find out who I was when I stepped outside of my comfort zone.
That takes courage. And I think that's another reason travel is so powerful. For language learning, you're constantly pushed to communicate, even when it's uncomfortable.
Exactly. And that discomfort becomes growth. Every confusing sign, every conversation with a stranger, every mistake. It's all part of the process.
Let's talk about your experience living in France. Culture shock is real. What surprised you most when you started interacting with people?
Oh, so many things. But what stood out immediately was how deeply the French value quality conversations. It's not just about saying hi and moving on, they really take their time. People maintain eye contact, they listen carefully, and they speak thoughtfully. Even when discussing simple things like where to buy cheese, the conversation feels intentional. It made me realize how rushed and transactional my communication had become back home.
That's fascinating. So the rhythm of life was different, slower, more deliberate.
Exactly. There's this cultural elegance in the way they live and talk, and I saw the same thing reflected in the education system. I joined a short language course in Lyon, and it was intense. Every lesson was packed with meaning. The teachers didn't just correct our grammar, they encouraged us to think deeply, to express our opinions, to compare ideas. It wasn't just about memorizing, it was about exploring.
That's a refreshing approach. Did you find it helpful for your English too?
Absolutely. In fact, many of the students there were international, so outside of class, English became our common language. I found myself constantly switching between French and English. That mental flexibility pushed me forward. It made me more confident in both languages and more comfortable making mistakes.
And you told me you volunteered while you were there. Where exactly?
Yes, I volunteered at this charming little bookstore tucked away in the old quarter of Lyon. It had wooden shelves, cozy corners, and the smell of old paper. I was surrounded by books, French and English, and I loved every second of it.
That sounds like a dream, but I imagine it came with its own set of challenges.
Oh, definitely. On my first day, I panicked when a customer asked me something quickly in French. I froze, but with time, I learned how to ask for clarification, how to give directions inside the store, how to say sorry or thank you in ways that felt warm and natural. I started noticing the small details of communication: body language, tone, pauses.
So you weren't just improving vocabulary, you were absorbing real life language patterns.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of working, or even volunteering, in another country. You don't just learn textbook English or textbook French. You learn how to express yourself in daily situations. That includes humor, frustration, politeness. It's all there.
And what about the work culture itself?
It was calm, but focused. People respected each other's time. Lunch breaks were sacred. No emails, no phone calls, just real conversation. I think that balance between professionalism and humanity is something we can all learn from.
Now we have to talk about the food. France is famous for it. Was it as good as they say?
Better. Honestly, James, eating in France is not just about satisfying hunger. It's about experiencing life. I still remember my first real croissant. It was warm, buttery, perfectly flaky. And I had it while sitting outside a small cafe watching the world go by.
You're making me hungry right now.
That's the point. But seriously, every meal taught me something. I had conversations with locals over cheese and baguettes, practiced English with tourists over dinner, and listened to beautiful French expressions exchanged over espresso shots. Food creates connection, and when you connect, you communicate, which means you're learning without realizing it.
And it's a great topic for conversation practice too, right?
Absolutely. Everyone eats, so food is a perfect doorway into practicing daily English. You can describe tastes, explain how something is made, talk about preferences, all in a natural, relaxed way.
Let's end with something emotional. Were there any places in France that really stayed with you emotionally, spiritually?
So many. But if I had to choose, Montmartre in Paris. There's something magical about it. It's where art meets soul. I would walk those cobbled streets in the early morning, hear the sound of violinists, smell fresh bread from the boulangeries, and feel peace. There's creativity in the air.
I can almost picture it, and outside Paris.
Provence. It's like another world. Vineyards stretching to the horizon, lavender fields, old stone houses, and the silence at night. It felt like the universe was listening. That place gave me space to reflect, to breathe, to realize how far I had come in my journey.
Sounds life changing. Did you ever get lost?
Oh, many times. Once in Marseille, I ended up on the wrong bus and had to ask for directions using a mix of broken French and hand gestures, but those were the moments I grew most. Real English speaking practice doesn't happen in perfect classrooms. It happens in imperfect situations, when you're confused, nervous, and forced to find your voice anyway.
That's so true, Catherine. I think that's the biggest takeaway from today's episode. Learning English isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, it's about showing up, making mistakes, laughing at yourself, and trying again. Because real fluency is not born in silence, it's born in conversation.
Exactly. And if you're listening to this right now, I want you to remember something important. Your story matters too. Every time you try to speak English, even if it feels awkward or slow, you're writing your own language journey, just like I did in France, just like James did. Every real situation you face is another page in your story.
And if you've made it this far in the episode, you're clearly serious about improving. You're committed, and that's something to be proud of. So leave us a comment that says, I'm ready to practice, and we'll invite you to our private group where you can join real English conversations with people just like you.
Because at the end of the day, it's not just about learning English, it's about connecting with people, with cultures, with yourself.
Thanks for sharing your journey with us today, Catherine. It was inspiring and full of lessons that go far beyond language.
Thank you, James. And to everyone listening, keep going. Keep listening. Keep speaking. Your English voice is waiting to grow.